And so, yeah, if I could go back and just live one day in wrestling again, I would choose to do the same thing to impersonate Owen and have him give me the sharpshooter.
Rewind, recap, relive for over 50 episodes. The revolutionary force in wrestling interview.
This is Jason Sensation. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is Bret the Hitman Hart. This is the Macho Man. This is Hulk Hogan. This is Jesse the Body. This is Booker T. This is Ron Simmons. And you're watching Rewind, Recap, Relive. Woo!
My guest today has brought us so much laughter in the wrestling community over the years through his incredible wrestling impressions and his great personality, whether it was during his very entertaining WWE career or both of our homes away from home, Cafe de Rene now. Most recently, too, on Cameo. Please welcome the one and only Jason Sensation.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome and introduction, Jonah. Pleasure to be here, brother. Thank you.
Yes,
Honored.
absolutely. No, thank you so much for coming on. And you really just, you were in a crazy battle, for the last 40 minutes to get here. So I'm so happy.
What a matchup. Almost tapped out.
What what a matchup for sure. And like I mentioned, I was grateful enough, lucky enough to meet you on Cafe, and I've spoken with you there for a while now. I'm curious how you feel about being able to go on Cafe and share your stories with the really great fan base that Renee and James and Paul and everyone have garnered over the past 2 years.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I was a pleasure meeting you there, and I'm grateful we did. You're a really good guy to know, and thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Um, yeah, just yeah, I feel like it's nice that the family brings me on, and you know, it's a really good opportunity. Like you said, they have a great fan base, and it seems like their fan base is like an entire family, and they've welcomed me in as well. And I'm really grateful. It's nice, and I enjoy getting to share the laughs with the guys. And Paul London, such a great old friend of mine, and it's always a pleasure to see him there. And of course, James and Renee, they've done so much to keep me aboard the family as well as you. So I enjoy it, and it's nice to touch base with people again.
Yeah. That's so cool. I loved when Renee said you were coming on, and you've added so much, like I said at the beginning, really laughter to the cafe community. I've seen you referred to as a national treasure a lot in the comments. They love you, the cafe fans.
Yeah, they're really nice. It's really touching. It really touches my heart, and yeah, it comes. Yeah, I'm just in a grateful place when I come there, and so I'm happy to be a
Yeah.
part of the show. Yeah.
Definitely. And so I always like to start these things at the beginning. Before we get to it, I've got about 50 wrestlers that I'd like to hear you impersonate, though, if you're ready for this. No, I'm not gonna prod you like the cafe fan base. Not yet.
I was like, well, that's not that. Probably will be able to do a number of them.
No, I definitely want to get to some throughout, but yeah, I want to go to the beginning because you have such a unique journey getting into wrestling, and it's like your personality your personality and passion really got you to what you're interested in. So where did it begin, your passion for wrestling?
Oh yeah, such a young age. I think with my dad. My mom said my dad even held me as a toddler watching wrestling. He's been such a wrestling fan his whole
That's
life.
awesome.
Even in his late 70s now, he's still a huge wrestling fan.
That's so cool.
He doesn't miss a show. And he's proud of that. But yeah, I guess that's where it stems from, and that father son connection. We use wrestling to bring us closer, and that was with a lot of other siblings in the family, and we could connect with my busy father through wrestling. And my mom joined along. We were almost like a wrestling family, so to speak. So it starts off that
That's
way.
awesome. That is,
Yeah.
do you remember what the first match that you watched was?
Ah, it's hard to say, but I think it might have been something like, it wasn't WWE. I think it was something to do with the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, and I caught something off the oh no, that was my first time watching on the farm. So even before that, when we lived at the old house, I can remember Tito Santana and Greg Valentine, the Intercontinental Belt, maybe something along those lines. Yeah, and Tito won the belt back in that cage match. That's one of the first matches I remember. What about you? When you like, what
For
was?
me,
Yeah,
it was, I feel like everyone has that moment like flipping through. For me, it was the Edge and Undertaker feud in like 2006 or 7. I can't remember which year it was, but that's when 'cause I was about 8 years old, and I was just flipping through the channels, and I landed on SmackDown, and it was like in the midst of that feud, and it just, yeah, completely, it gripped me forever. It really did. That's and then I started tuning in weekly. And I think it was still, maybe we're getting back to a point now where you could like flip the channels and something can grab your attention. But back then it was definitely still at that point where like, who is this like guy they're calling the dead man? Like, why is he sitting up, and why are they fighting? And, Edge with the tattoos and long hair, like it was very visually appealing for sure.
that's awesome. Cool to hear. Yeah, the different genres can grip you the same ways it gripped me, and that's awesome.
Right? Through the eras, yeah. Oh, and then I know you did some work with the Home Shopping Network, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
led with you getting an opportunity to get signed with WWE, right?
That's right. Yeah, I was going crazy. Brett, they were doing the Canadian American feud at the time with the Hart Foundation. So they had cameras in Canada a lot. So I was going crazy following those cameras and, trying to get on the show. So I was even on the show once when Brett came back with the belt. But then there was the Home Shopping Network. And yeah, I'd met Owen just before that, before the Home Shopping Network, and he was at a meet and greet in Ottawa. I got to meet Owen and the Bulldog, and they brought me backstage, which I met Carl DeMarco then, which was the Canadian president. So he invited me on to
Oh
some of the
wow.
Home Shopping Network shows.
And how old were you at this point?
I think I was 18 or 19. I was starting to get up there, Just
But that's crazy to be being brought backstage, meeting all these people. What do you think it was that had Owen bring you backstage? What sold him? Was it an impression at the time, or was it?
yeah, it was definitely the impressions. I was going crazy too. I was on a whole other level. First time getting that close to a wrestler where I wasn't bothering them, and it was just
Yeah.
so, and they were loving it. Both of them were ribbing each other. Owen and Bulldog were like trying to get each other to one up each other with the impressions they could try to stump me with. So they were going back and forth with some of the funniest. Like,
Do you
I bet you can't do Jesse the Body Ventura. Owen was saying, I'm like, come on, I'm Jesse the Body. And then Bulldog was like, can you do Vince McMahon? I'm Vince McMahon here with Jesse the Body Ventura. They were laughing their asses off, and then Owen's like, do the Bulldog. I'm like, I'm the British Bulldog. He's like, do Owen. Like, I'm a Slammy Award winner. Woo!
Oh
So it
my
was just
God.
so much fun back and forth, and then yeah, just me begging. I'm like, I don't want this to end, Owen. Come on, like, bring me backstage. I was begging him, and so he was like, I'm gonna bring you backstage, and he did. And yeah, it was such a cool moment walking down the hall with him, like, Owen, this is really amazing what you're doing for me. I remember the chills going up and down my spine, and he's like, well, you're gonna do something for me. You're gonna do some voices for some of these guys, okay? So you can see the rib already rolling in his eyes.
Oh my God.
So,
That's so cool. Who were the first people that you saw when he brought you backstage? Do you remember any first impressions you made, or impersonations, but impressions of people meeting him?
yeah, there was Dustin Rhodes, and he was Goldust at the time, and there was still that element of, where I still believed some of it was real. And
Yeah.
I remember that Goldust, I knew as a fan he was Dustin Rhodes, but I still wasn't sure. I still wasn't 100% sure. And that we didn't have internet yet to be able to find those things out. So to see Dustin Rhodes from WCW back there blew my mind. It's like, you really are Goldust. Oh, he's spitting tobacco. He's like, can you do my daddy? Can you do my daddy? Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And it was like, oh my gosh, I could try. Let me tell you about the American dream. And he's like, that's pretty good. Yeah, it was so cool. And Ahmed Johnson, I remember all the boys popping at me trying to do Ahmed Johnson's voice to him. And I just started splurging out words that didn't even make sense, just the way I would remember his interviews. But even with the boys laughing at him, he seemed honored by it. He got a kick out of it. He was really nice about it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool that that he enjoyed it still. Yeah. What an incredible talent, first of all, that I feel like, I mean, I know you get told a lot, but it really is like if you close your eyes, you feel like I'm hearing the person that you're actually imitating. Like it is uncanny.
I appreciate that. Thanks very much. What a gift. Yeah, we all have our gifts, right? So
Yeah.
I'm blessed.
No, definitely. Do you remember what your first wrestler impression was that you tried to nail down?
I think it was Macho Man. Yeah, my brother,
Makes sense.
my older brother was doing Macho Man all the time. And I started doing that Macho Man impression so much. And yeah, that's probably the first for a lot of people, right?
Yeah,
Everybody.
exactly. That, oh yeah. Yeah, I can't even. Can we hear a macho?
Oh yeah, the Macho Man. Yeah, rewind, recap, and relive. Oh yeah, dig it, Jonah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Well, so Owen brought you backstage, and then how I've heard a story about a meeting that you had, which sounds like a crazy meeting with Vince, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold, China, and Mike Tyson. And that was the lead up to WrestleMania 14. So where do you go from Owen bringing you backstage to that meeting?
Yeah, thanks. That was unbelievable. And then it was again Carl DeMarco, the Canadian president. So I credit Owen with getting my foot in the door. Literally, he pulled my foot. Even security was like, "You can't bring this kid back here." Owen was like, "He's coming with me," and he literally pulled me through these guys and got my foot in the door. And then meeting Carl DeMarco, the Canadian president, that guy doesn't get enough credit for, putting Canada on the map during that new generation era. And for a lot of the guys that he helped launch, like Edge and Christian, and Val
Mhm.
Venus, Trish Stratus, he really helped a lot of the Canadian talent, Tiger Ali Singh. So yeah, so he really helped me and got me a interview with Vince McMahon. He would call me for those home shopping network shows. And then when Vince was on off the record for Bret the Hitman Hart, that really a popular interview that he did with the first one with Off the Record with Michael Ensper. Carl
Mhm.
DeMarco called me and was like, Jason, come down to the TSN and I'll get you to meet Vince. Like he was really pushing for me. So it was such a great opportunity. After meeting Vince, I got that call from Vince Russo just before WrestleMania, and I couldn't believe they were going to fly me out to WrestleMania to that, unbelievable first interview. The star power was mind-boggling.
No, that is crazy. And if you could take us in, so that meeting you had with them, that was just them meeting you for the first time, those huge names, and you impressing them with the impersonations, or what, how would you explain that?
Yeah, so they were going over the public workout that they were going to do. They were they had a live audience rally. And it was like a week before Mania, and it was maybe one of the first times that they do this every year now, where they have the rally before Mania. They do it a few
Mhm.
months before Mania. but this was one of the first times they had done that, and it was live in Boston, and they had so many people, and we were going over the segment of what they were going to do. And as I walked in, Vince was like, "Well, I brought the impersonator here from Toronto, and he'll be joining DX and doing some voices." And it was Tyson who was just so enthralled. Mike Tyson was so interested in these impressions. He's, I want to hear these impressions. Like, what do you mean impressions? To tell me, what do you mean? Like, come on, man, let's hear one of these voices. And I'm like, who do you guys want? And he's like, and then Vince is like, well, why don't we try Stone Cold, who just didn't look impressed at all. So I was like, the bottom line is Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to whoop your ass, Mike Tyson. And the way Mike Tyson got up and left the room, holding himself like he was just laughing and keeling over laughing, it really put me over. So, yeah, that was basically the first moment. Yeah.
I love that Mike Tyson was so into the impressions. He's in the news again. I don't know if you saw that was announced. He's going to fight in July.
Yes, that's unbelievable. I just wish him the best. Yeah, utmost respect him, and yeah, I hope he does well, and I hope everything goes okay. And never count him down. You saw what George Foreman did.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, yeah, I just can't believe his willpower to get in incredible shape, and even forgetting the age to get in shape time and time again. I can't
Yeah,
believe it. And he also seems really happy right now too. If you look at him like getting like social media, any videos, like seems like he's at a good point where he's just kind of living his life and doing these marquee fights every once in a while. I know he had one in 2020, might have been
yeah,
right before the world shut down. I don't remember exactly who was against. Roy Jones Jr. maybe.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think that ended in a draw. But this one seems like it's going to be a little bit bigger, especially with all the attention Jake Paul brings with him.
Yeah, exactly. What a huge fight. They're probably making some major coin off this one.
It's it's definitely
This
no.
is like that Rocky movie, Rocky Six, where
Oh, with what was his name? Something Dick, right? Wasn't it?
yeah,
I don't remember what it, but I remember Rocky. That's one of the only ones he lost, Rocky, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's like the old timer coming back to fight the guy in his prime.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
it was.
good. A lot of people don't like that Rocky. I don't know.
I don't know why. That's one of my favorite Rockies.
It's so good. That's where he drops the line, right? If it's not how hard you get hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit, Jonah, and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
So you do it a lot better than I could. Oh, that's good. Um, Well, we said so. Jake Paul and Tyson. Do you have any thoughts on Logan Paul? I know you still keep up with WWE occasionally. Do you have any thoughts on what Logan Paul is doing? Like Mike Tyson, another celebrity coming in to the world of wrestling and really just taking it by storm.
Yeah, I'm so proud of him. I think he's done so good. Yeah, such an amazing job, and he's really learned his craft right away. And yeah, I think it's a win-win for both sides. He's got himself a whole career here, and the wrestling business, it's just helping the business with the amount of people that he has watching him all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm a big fan of his. I like him, and yeah, I'm proud of what he's doing, and I think he's a great worker and he's a great heel. And yeah, I enjoy watching him and look forward to his matches. What about you? Are you a fan of his?
I am. I'm a big fan of Logan Paul. I didn't know I knew his the name before WWE, and I feel like over the years, like especially during the guest host era, it's been up and down with celebrities coming into wrestling. But when they really put their all into it, I'm sure you can attest with like being around Mike Tyson, when they put all their attention and focus into it, it could be really special a lot of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I'm so proud of both of them what they've done. The Paul brothers.
Oh my God, yeah.
just done amazing. Yeah, they're millionaires, you know.
They're millionaires, and it's all their creativity and everything. It is good. So I'm happy that we've got Logan Paul in, and that it seems like he's. I always wonder how they do their time management. Some of these people, like The Rock now, or a Logan Paul who manages to be on Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, and then you look at their Instagram the next day, and they're in, I don't know, Hawaii here, and California. They're definitely good at managing their days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's those private jets.
they get, there you go. Easier than you or I traveling somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's cool. As someone who, your career in WWE was a lot of entertainment, and just really entertaining the fans, obviously. Do you have any thoughts on that, more of like a comic relief role in WWE? Like we might see over the years, they've brought in people who are great wrestlers, great personalities, but they're really talented. They have that skill of entertaining.
Mhm. What about it? Like,
Do
what do
you
you
have
have?
any thoughts on that role? Like someone like now we're seeing like an R-Truth, and then before maybe like someone like Santino Marella. And I'd put you in that category. Anyone who could make an entire, viewing party, entire audience laugh until they don't know what's going on. I mean, that's a big talent.
Yeah, I agree. And I really love that part of it. I think it's a huge part of the show, that comic relief. And, you're right. It's our truth. And yeah, he's amazing. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever seen. I actually knew him back when I was in Memphis. And
Oh wow.
yeah, we were close, fairly close at the time. I would say pretty good acquaintances. He even stayed at our house a few times, and we got along. Smoked a few Tennessee cigarettes together. So I couldn't believe how in shape this guy was. He could see, he always looked like $1,000,000, even though he ate whatever he wanted and smoked cigarettes and Tennessee cigarettes, and but yeah, such a funny guy, and I think it's important to have that comic relief. And I was proud to play that part just for a little bit. They had me on the road doing hosting the shows and
Okay.
opening shows on house shows, doing impressions a lot of the time. I thought it was a funny role, and I really enjoyed it. And I remember even when they were taping Raws at the time when I was doing it. So I remember sitting with my mom and my brother John and my brother Eddie. We were watching Raw when I had filmed it the week before. So this was my debut. I was getting to watch it with my family members. So seeing the parody, pardon me.
I said that's amazing. That's really
Yeah, it's so amazing. What an experience. Thanks. And getting to see the parody, I'll never forget watching the DX parody. I was enjoying it. I was laughing. It was exciting seeing myself. My family was all in awe. But when I grabbed that mic and I started to do Owen's impression, I couldn't believe it myself. And it was so funny to me. And it was like a surreal moment where I was watching myself as a fan, and everyone was laughing their asses off. And my stomach was hurting. I was laughing so hard, experiencing it that way. And it was so amazing. I thought it was one of the funniest things I had ever seen. And it was something I did. And I couldn't believe I got to actually watch it from outside myself. It was amazing.
a
Yeah,
skill more people need, just to be able to laugh at themselves. That's so cool.
totally.
um, I've also another story I heard was that after the WrestleMania 14, the meeting and all of that went down, was there something having to do with Shane McMahon keeping you around for that night or that weekend?
Yeah, for that entire, it was an entire week. So it was the week before WrestleMania that I was there. And yeah, I had known the headbangers from the home
Oh yeah.
shopping. Yeah, and they were such funny, good
I
guys.
love
And
them. They're awesome. When I had them both on with like a younger tag team, they just tore this to shreds. Every opportunity they got to poke fun at this tuxedo, they took it. They're great.
Oh, that's awesome. I think the tuxedo is a great touch, by the way. Yeah, you
Thank
look,
you.
yeah, very sharp, sir. So looks good. Good idea. Utmost respect.
I
But
appreciate
you're welcome. But yeah, the headbangers. So it was Thrasher. He was like, "Bro, you don't have to go home. It's WrestleMania at the end of the week. I mean, stay here, brother. Come on, figure out a way." And I'm like, "Oh well, I got a plane heading home. I like when they drop you at the airport. I mean, at the hotel. I'm leaving the hotel in the shuttle. We're just dropping you guys. I'm going straight to the airport." Well, we're going to see about that. So I got to thank Thrasher as well, Glenn Ruth. He goes up to the driver and he's like, "Hold on, wait right here." And he takes me from the shuttle bus to the hotel. He's like, "Shane, they're going to send this guy home week of WrestleMania. Did you see what he did?" And Shane had seen he was part of that whole segment there, the meeting. He was in that first meeting, and
Okay.
so he had seen the whole thing of what I'd done, and it really got over. And Shane was like, "No, no, 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 you're gonna stay. You're gonna stay here, actually, yeah." And Shane brought me to the hotel desk. He's like, "We gotta get another room," and he put the whole room on his card. And he said,
Wow.
yeah, he said to meet him. He's like, "You're staying the week," and I'm like, "I don't even have any clothes." He's like, "You're gonna meet me in the morning. I'm gonna give you the credit card. You're gonna go buy some clothes. You just go out and you buy some clothes." He was such a nice guy, so cool. And I couldn't believe it. And the next morning, I got a call from the office, and they're like, "We're actually gonna pay you to be here for the week. We're gonna give you $500 a day."
Wow.
What? I have not seen any kind of money that kind of money. Like I'm getting $3,500 for the week on top of the money I made, and I was just in awe. It was unbelievable. So
That's a dream come true. And were you already under contract at that point?
no, this was just it was like a one-off. It was supposed to be just that one-off, from meeting Vince and at the TSN. He's like, "I'll get you on air, kid. We're gonna get you on air. Please don't remember me. I would find that very difficult." Okay, pal. So yeah, it was from that, and it was just supposed to be a one-off. So everything was just piling on after all this positivity, all this good stuff.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was too bad some bad shit went down that week. It's just the yin yang of life. The good that comes with the bad, and it's just too bad. But man, up until that, it was probably the greatest week of my life.
No, exactly. What point do you get officially signed and get the call to get signed from WrestleMania 14?
So, what's amazing is I ended up doing. I went to Stamford, Connecticut to do like I went for this first meeting, and then it was after that I got a call from Russo just out of the blue. "Bro, we're gonna have you on Raw. We're gonna have you doing Owen." I was supposed to actually at that Mania. That's right. When I got paid all that money, I was supposed to be getting paid to be a part of WrestleMania. And I was getting $500 a day leading up to my WrestleMania moment I was actually going to have. And that's why when some shitty stuff went down before this, a couple of days before Mania, it was just too bad. I wondered if it had something to do with, taking this off track, because it was all looking so good. And it was like such a positive, happy dream come true. And it was all of a sudden shattered a couple days before. And then I was convinced to stick around for Mania, which I was supposed to be a part of this WrestleMania match with Triple H and China, and Triple
Oh,
H was
wow.
fighting Owen Hart.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to come out with them dressed as Owen Hart. And Sergeant Slaughter was also a part of the match. It was just like like such a dream come true. I was getting a WrestleMania moment, and day of WrestleMania backstage, they changed it, and Triple H was the one who broke the news to me. He's like, it's too serious. The feud's been too serious. We built it up, and it's just too much. So we're gonna leave you off, but we promise you that it's gonna happen. We're gonna get you to do this Owen Hart. It's too good. So we're gonna have you do Owen eventually, but it's not gonna happen here at WrestleMania. So it was too bad. And Russo had to explain it to me too. Bro, we've done too much to make this a serious feud. And we've got China and we've got Slaughter involved, bro. And we just can't have you coming out. I'm sure you've enjoyed yourself here at Mania. It's been an amazing week. You're part of the gimmick now. You're in the game. You're in with the boys. You're one of the boys now, bro. And we're going to have you back doing Owen Hart because it's your greatest impression, bro. So after that, after the meeting in Stamford a couple months later, I got the call in July. Russo, he's like, we're going to bring you in. I was supposed to be doing the entire Nation of Domination impression.
Oh, so by yourself? Or
yeah.
Wow.
So it wasn't even supposed to be me dressed. We weren't even supposed to dress up. That was a last minute thing. So what happened was they brought me down, like they flew me to a couple of shows, a couple of Raws before the fact, and was like getting me to hang out with all of the Nation of Domination members so I could learn their voices to do well enough to do on air. So, and they were all really nice to me, you know, Mark Henry and D'Lo Brown and The Rock, he was amazing with me, and The Godfather. They were all they welcomed me in, and they were so kind to me. Ron Simmons as well, and they were just really great guys. And
that's great to hear. That is really cool.
Yeah, I was really touched by that because there were even some members of DX, especially Billy Gunn, who weren't so nice. And to have me around, he wasn't treating me the best, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
There's a kid running around acting like a mark. It just rubbed some people the wrong way, of course. But these guys all welcomed me in, and I hung out, and I was doing my best to learn their voices. And as it came to that Raw, finally, China didn't want to. Oh, yeah, that's right. So everyone was supposed to dress up. I was not supposed to dress up.
Okay.
So I was supposed to be a sideshow coming in as Jason Sensation for the first time, or the way I had done it in the parody with Mike Tyson and Triple H before WrestleMania 14. I was supposed to do the same thing. I'm this psychic who can channel wrestling voices, and my name's Jason Sensation.
Oh, that was going to be the gimmick?
That was my gimmick, and
that was
so
funny.
Yeah, that's how Triple H first introduced me. Psychic medium from the stars, Jason Sensation.
Who thought of it? Was that Russo?
I think so, yeah. So I was, when I was doing the voices that first time in Boston with Triple H and Mike Tyson, I was acting like Russo was like, bro, you've got to do something in between the voices, like you're channeling them, like the psychic you are. So I was like convolting in the ring. It's just what I had come up with on the spot. So I was convolting in the ring in between impressions. And it was one of the referees that told me that everyone was laughing their asses off at your impressions, except Vince McMahon. When you were doing that convolting, he was staring at the monitor, disgusted. And he looked at Russo and was like, what the hell is he doing? Russo was like, bro, he's a psychic. He's channeling the wrestlers. I told him to do this. So anyway, so I was supposed to be this psychic again on Raw. And China all of a sudden, and DX was supposed to dress up like the Nation. China had a problem with dressing up. She said it was not part of her character to joke around like the boys. And she stood up against the storyline with like let me just stay China during the whole thing.
Oh wow.
And she's like, why don't you put the costume on Jason? And that's when they decided, oh, this is going to be even funnier to have Jason actually play Owen Hart because his Owen Hart is so good. And that's when they decided, because it was supposed to be them dressed up, but me doing each voice. So each guy would come to me and say, now channel this guy.
Okay.
And then last minute they changed it, and everyone was going to be doing their impressions in the ring of each individual guy, and I was just to do Owen Hart now, which was a lot easier for me, and I had already mastered Owen Hart. It basically was getting me the job.
Mm-hmm.
But to finally answer your question, Jonah, I was not
I gotta
signed
say that best tangent I've ever heard. Dude, don't even worry.
thanks, but I had not even been signed yet at this time, so I went out and did that parody with DX, and then I was basically on the show with Raw, and we were going to do this feud with Owen. It was getting over so huge. I was getting such pops that they were like, wow, man, we can just have you play this sideshow, and you have the power to turn guys heel or face. Like, people are hating Owen now because of you. And they were actually going to use me to turn Shamrock heel. I was
Mm.
going to Owen was going to be challenging Shamrock, and I was going to come out in little red underwears and big fist, big boxing, big UFC gloves,
Right.
punching my head and screaming like Shamrock, five knuckle shuffle time. And all of a sudden, that's when I got caught at the border, and I didn't have a green
Right.
card. And I had just been flown back and forth without a green card, and it's the company flying me in and out. So I finally got recognized at the border. I shouldn't have been dressing up like I looked on the show, but it had gone to my head already just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. They were like, it was such a bad interrogation and immigration. It was very scary. And,
Uh,
uh, yeah, and so it set me back huge, and they wouldn't let me cross the border. And I remember Kevin Dunn was just trying, and Bruce Pritchard, they were just going crazy on me, trying to get me to cross the border anyway, because they really wanted this to continue. And I was an important part of Raw that day. And they were just on the phone with me. And it was Carl DeMarco who was fighting them. It was weird, but he was on the Canadian side saying, you're going to destroy him. If he gets caught, his whole career will be finished. He'll never get back in the States. So it was another one of those catch 22s with my career,
yeah.
where it's too bad, but I wish I listened to the Americans and went. If I had found a way driving over the border that day, they were going to keep me there, get my paperwork done right away, move me to Connecticut, and have me live there. And it's just, my whole career would have went a different way, and instead, like, that's what they had told me they had planned for me. So, but instead, I went home, and I just waited for the paperwork to be done, and it wasn't as important for them to do it right away. So it took a few months. It took 6 months actually to get all that paperwork done, and it ended the storyline I had. But in hindsight, looking back, I never really got a storyline going again the same way I had it. And I was on a 3-year contract, but I got paid next to nothing compared to what
Uh,
everyone else was being
yeah.
paid. Yeah. So in hindsight, it always bugged me. Like, at that time, I wasn't signed yet, and I had made it huge on TV with DX, and Barry Bloom was trying to sign me, this agent, and Vince McMahon begged for me not to sign with Barry Bloom. And
Oh,
so I did. Yeah, he begged. He got Russo to call me, and Hunter and China were trying to get me to sign with Barry Bloom. He wanted to sign me, and that was before I'd signed a contract. So it would have done wonders for me. But Vince, through Vince Russo, Vince McMahon begged me not to sign. He's like, bro, Vince is begging you, pleading with you not to sign with Barry Bloom, bro. And what we promise you, we're going to sign you to a contract. We're going to sign you to 3 years and we guarantee you. But he doesn't like dealing with these agents, bro. And they just really got me not to sign with this. And it was my dream come true. I was going to do what the boss wanted.
Yeah. No,
So
definitely easily susceptible at that point to whatever they were probably saying. You were still in your early 20s.
yeah, I was 20 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So, but yeah, in hindsight, if I had signed that contract and Barry Bloom took me to, the war with WCW and, negotiated between the two companies for me.
yeah.
I had it going for me that I hadn't signed and I was already a huge star on TV at that moment. So it always gets to me like how much money I could have made. It turned out that those were my only 3 years in mainstream wrestling. So imagine the money I could have made if I had signed with Barry Bloom and
You're the hottest free agent. Got to be one of them up there at that point. Yeah.
at the time. And Bischoff probably would have loved to have me,
Oh yeah.
knowing I could do all the WWE voices. He could have had a field
Oh
day
my
with it.
God.
So yeah, it would have been something else just to sit down and negotiate. And that's too bad. But we live, we learn. Hindsight 2020, of course.
No, exactly. And easier to say from my perspective, but really cool that it did happen, watching you out there than the fact that I guess the rest of it unfortunately didn't.
Yeah, exactly. If I
But
could have one opportunity to go back, I would still want it to go the way it did. If I had one chance to be in the ring, I would love to imitate Owen Hart, who's one of the greatest human beings I've ever known. And
yes.
I'm, a huge fan of his and the entire Hart family, and yeah. And so, yeah, if I could go back and just live one day in wrestling again, I would choose to do the same thing to impersonate Owen and have him give me the sharpshooter.
I definitely want to get into that. His response to the impersonation, I just watched it last night. It was great. But one question I had at the time, so you're 20 years old, and so eventually you sign a contract, but like there's no question that this is maybe the most popular wrestling ever was and maybe ever will be, was at that point. So amazing that you were able to be in the locker room for that. What was that like when you were post WrestleMania 14, officially one of the boys? Like, what was that like being back there during that time?
Oh, it was amazing, and it was like it was such a tight knit group of people. Everyone was on because the war was going on with
Yeah.
WCW. Everyone in WWE they had this mindset of winning this. And with Russo writing storylines that had everyone involved, it seemed like everyone was like from the top of the card to the bottom of the card, everyone was involved. Everyone had a spot on the show, and everyone was doing their best to give their best to make the show the best. And everyone was having fun. So it was such a fun atmosphere backstage around everybody. It was like a giant team, like a giant football team. Everyone was on the same page.
Yeah.
And I was really welcomed in and treated like a mascot. Everyone loved to laugh and use me to pop each other. So I was doing impressions left, right, and center. I was basically hired as a sideshow Bob, as a court jester for the company.
With Chester. That's so
Yeah,
cool. Oh my God.
it was
What
it was a great time.
who were some specific ones? Do you remember anyone coming up to you other than Owen Hart telling you to do impressions?
Oh yeah, I remember the Vader one. My Vader impression made a lot of people laugh. So I remember The Rock. I guess they wanted to rib Vader. There was something going on with his. I don't even want to put it down because the poor guy's passed away, but it was something to do with his tights, and so they wanted to rib him about it. And the impression of Vader made the boys really pop. So The Rock, I remember him, Jason, come on over. We're gonna bring you out here, and you're just gonna pop into the Vader impression. And I remember doing it, coming out in front of all the boys, and Vader was sitting there, and I was like, I feel no man, and I feel no pain. It's better time. And I mean, it just popped all the boys. I can't even give it to Justice. It was even better then. Since the surgery, it's harder to yell.
Right,
But
right.
but yeah, even Vader laughed and popped for it. And I liked that most of the guys that even I was supposed to be ribbing, they were in on the joke and they enjoyed the impressions as well. So
That's so cool. I love that one. And yeah, Vader was, it's a real shame that he passed away. And right before his Hall of Fame induction, too, which is just so upsetting. He was really nice. I remember he was one of the first wrestlers I ever met.
yeah.
I was maybe like 11 or something, but I went to this store, just a bunch of like wrestling action figures, big wrestling store, and Vader was in the back and he refused to sign any merch that wasn't bought by a fan. Like the guy who brought him in tried to get him to sign a bunch of cards and action figures. Vader was like, nope, nope, I'm not doing that. And so
Wow.
the guy was like, what do I do? So he just kept giving. Vader was in this back room and he just kept handing my friend and I Vader merch. And he's like, go in there and have him sign this. If it's from you, he'll do it. And Vader was like, you guys are some of the biggest Vader fans I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
But
Oh, cool story.
that's awesome though that you were able to
Yeah, he was such a Leon. He was such a great guy, so down to earth, a gentle giant. He
Mm.
was really nice to me and welcomed me as well. And he'd give me some advice on the road. And yeah, I'll always remember him as being very kind and have fond memories of him, Leon White.
That's awesome. That is awesome to hear, really. And so you mentioned you talked to Triple H a lot beforehand during some of the skits. I'm curious if we could go deeper, like what was it like working out a segment or something with Triple H? Because we see everything he's doing now as like a mastermind of what he's producing with WWE. It's really great. People are loving it. So did you see any of that back then?
Yeah, yeah, and he was instrumental in DX and a lot of the stuff that Russo was writing everything, but Hunter had a lot of input into everything he was doing, and he was so hands-on with everything. I mean, when I met Vince McMahon, Hunter and China were there with him. They were like, yeah, they were traveling around with Vince at the time, and he was already pretty much off this. He was sponging and learning and in charge of a lot. I remember when I first met him, I didn't want to do the Bret Hart impression because I didn't want to make fun of Bret. And he had to explain to me, Jason, your what is it called? Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
flattering these guys. It's flattering to them that you're doing their impressions. But he had to explain to me that if I was going to make it in this business, I had to put that my love for each wrestler aside and just do the impressions that I'm being asked to do, kind of wake up the mark inside me.
Right.
Yeah, he was really hands on with everything. And I remember that, I would hang out with different members of DX, Road Dogg and X Pac mainly, and I would party with them.
Oh,
I would go out and go to the bars with them, or I would, smoke joints with them.
yeah.
And they were always partying. And I remember Hunter was in China at the time too. They were so straight edge. They didn't party. They didn't go out. They didn't go to the bars. They weren't doing anything, any kind of the partying with any of the boys. They were all business, business, business. And you see where he got now, and he's that's I think an important part of how he got in, and he was always focused on the business and teaching and learning, but he never went down those other paths where he where you sort of where you could self-destruct.
Yeah.
You know, he never took any of those paths, and he never, you know, you'd never see him out partying with anybody. So yeah,
Wow.
he was serious about the business. He was always very serious, and he took his character and his place on the show very seriously and had a lot of input. So he was a good leader, always a good leader. Yeah, got to give him credit.
That's awesome. Very well disciplined. Yeah, and that's I love the passion from him. Just he showed it, I guess, in a different way, right? Really,
Absolutely,
in
yeah.
a really deep way.
Those are the words: passion and discipline. Those are definitely the words I was looking for. So
Yeah.
true.
Um, well, so a friendship that's well documented, you brought it up earlier, you and Owen Hart, and I learned now, I mean, credit him for really your whole career, which is amazing.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
fans today who might not have seen all of Owen's greatest matches or seen the side of him even that you did, why is Owen Hart such a legend in your opinion in the wrestling world?
Oh, good question. Because Owen was so respected as an athlete. He really owned his craft, and he was one of the greatest technical wrestlers. And not just a technical wrestler, but high flyer. He brought in a lot of acrobatic moves that had not been done before, and you know, kind of you know, helped start off the wrestling we see now. He was one of the pioneers of, you know, the way wrestling evolved. Owen Hart was one of those wrestlers who was adding so many different aerial maneuvers into his technical arsenal. So Owen Hart was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And on top of that, one of the most kindest human beings you would ever have the pleasure of meeting. He had this childlike um, personality, this childlike sense of humor, to where he just loved to make people laugh, and he loved to play ribs, and he you almost saw the mischievousness in his eyes when he was starting to play a rib. He had such a glow of him. He was almost like he was a true angel, you know, but there was such a funny comedic side that brought joy to everybody in the room every time you were around him. He would light up the room, and his presence, because of how he was, it lightened everybody up. And on top of that, on more of a serious side, he would look out for people. He was so caring and kind, and really had such a heart. You know, they at his funeral, you know, so sad, but they called him a lighthouse, you know, and that's what he was. He was like a lighthouse for people. People would almost magnetize to him, and he was a lifesaver, and he would touch lives, and he would take care of people. And probably one of the most uh, amazing loyal people you would see on the road. Just again, not one of the people that partied or went out. Just so loyal to his wife and his children. He just loved his family so much. Everything he did was focused towards getting home to them all the time. He would save every dollar and stay with wrestling fans. He would have different fans in different areas that he knew that
Why?
he
Oh,
would
that's so cool.
he would room up with, or he would have them pick him up. And like Ronnie Gaff became one of the most popular ones in Canada. But you know, it was like his. They say Ronnie Gaff was Owen's last rib on the business.
Wait, that's great.
But yeah, Ronnie's such a great guy too. But yeah, Owen. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
But I can't say enough kind things about what a person Owen Hart was. And I was so blessed to get to know him and to be around him and to have him like almost look out for me in a way, and want to involve me so much and help my career so much. And yeah, I'll always say he was the nicest, kindest, probably the best human being I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. And I'll always remember him for that. And I'm sure everyone would say the same. He's just one of the greatest human beings, just gone too soon. True angel.
Yeah. I mean, that was a wonderful answer. Yeah, as someone who didn't grow up watching him live, but went back and watched him, and really ahead of his time, and hearing all the stories from you and others in the business. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, great
Really
guy.
cool to hear they called him a lighthouse too. I never heard that. That's really,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a poem. It was actually a poem. If I could remember it, I am a lighthouse, lonely but strong. I reach out to help people weather the storm. Some are lost souls, some in dismay. My heart helps to guide them out of harm's way. I remembered it. Wow.
That's crazy. How many years is that? At least, what is that? The 20 years at least.
About 25 years ago.
25 years and you remember that. That's a great memory.
Thank you. That's
A
how I
one,
do impressions, my memory.
is it?
Yeah, that's the gift of impression. It's I remember the voice. I
Yeah,
remember doing when I was younger. I did but thanks very much for your compliment.
of
Yeah,
course. Yeah, yeah.
I did an IQ test when I was younger, and they said, you're pretty average on every other level, but on your memory, you blew the charts. You're better than the most ingenious geniuses on your memory. So yeah, so I attest my impressions to memory. Yeah.
I love that. Wow, the secret of Jason Sensation. He's a genius. No, that's really cool.
Thank you.
Um,
In memory, anyway.
the memory. But yeah, I mean, like I said, great answer for Owen. And another thing that's well documented about Owen are his ribs. And you alluded to some earlier. If you had to name a favorite or two favorite ribs you witnessed from Owen, what would they be?
Oh man, there were so many. They're the ones that he's pulled on me. I mean, I've told a few times, but well, here's one I've never really told, I don't think.
Oh,
Just where so we were getting on a plane and he kept asking me, maybe I've told this, but he was asking me, so Jason, you do animals? I'm like, yes. Oh, and I loved being around him because he was so funny too.
yeah.
And he knew I loved him and I would laugh at his jokes. So he would be even funnier around me just to make me laugh. He was such a great guy to be around. But so he was like, so what kind of animals do you do? Do you do like chickens? Like he was doing these actual impressions while he's getting me to do them. So we were both going back and forth with all these animals. Can you do the goat? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, okay, okay. So he's like, as soon as we're on the plane, you keep watching me. I'll be looking over to you. And when it's time, I'm going to give you the cue. And I want you to do the chickens, the goats, and yeah, I forget. Oh, and the monkeys. So chickens, the goats, and the monkeys. As soon as I give you the cue, so on the plane, I'm just sitting there, and Owen's in eye view of me, and he keeps looking back. Not yet, not yet. So I'm sitting there, and I almost forgot. It had been going so long on the plane, and then all of a sudden, Owen's like, I catch him. He's like, now, and I'm like all the boys are asleep, and I'm like, now, like I was so scared. He's like, now. So okay, I had to do it. So I start with the chickens. Blah, blah. And all the boys started waking up and they were pissed. I remember John Tenta, who was sitting close to me, was like, man, we're all sleeping. Shut the fuck up. Oh, sorry for swearing.
No, it's okay. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, so Owen had ribbed everybody with my animal voices on the plane, waking everyone up. And John Tenta, don't want to get me wrong, he was such a nice guy. It was just that I had poked the bear at this time, but he was such a gentle giant too. He
I
was
right. I just watched his Dark Side of the Ring, and everyone that's what, and it came across like that too, so genuine and just so kind.
Yeah, I watched it too. I actually just watched it last night. I bawled my eyes out. It was so touching for me. You know, the thing we bonded because I had my girlfriend at the time was a Filipino woman who was like double my age. And she he was married to a Filipino woman as well. And they had as you saw on the Dark Side of the Ring, their first child was actually his wife's child first. He married into
Right.
fathering their first child. So I remember I would go to him for advice because my girlfriend Lynn, she had kids back home in the Philippines that she was trying to bring home to Canada, and her being almost 40 and me being 20, I was so nervous about being a father to these kids that are half my age.
Hmm.
Not really, but maybe a quarter of my age already. And I would go to him for advice, and he had told me, he had confided in me that he wasn't the best father at first, that he wished he could have been a better father at first to his first son, and that after he found Jesus, he became such a better father. And after he had more kids with his wife. But he was talking to me about how his son was just his first son. Well, his wife's son was just as much his child as his other two children now.
Oh,
And he loved them all so much equally. And he told me, like, you're going to end up loving them all. And just, if you love her, stay with her. And he was so about, keeping that family bond and so much about true love that's why it broke me last night to see John Tenta's wife, and his children missing him, and their hearts still breaking for him. It just,
yeah.
what a great person, what an unbelievably great person.
That's so cool. So what a great story to stem from that amazing,
Yeah.
amazing rib too. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, totally.
Um, and I've heard we've talked about it. We've heard it on the cafe. You yourself are a very talented ribber. It seems over the years you have a great talent for it. In the form of prank calls, I have heard the great one with Renee that I think he just found out. He definitely just found out about that. I don't know if he wants to admit that, but I feel like that was just on the spot. He was like, "What?" Um, but any other prank calls we may have not heard of that you've done?
Mm. um oh, there's been a bunch of prank calls. Oh my gosh. Oh, here's this one. DDP,
Oh,
my
I love
friend.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Such
I
a
don't know.
nice guy.
Yeah, he is a nice guy, isn't he? I've only met him one time. Yeah. Have you met him? Yeah.
I was lucky enough and very grateful to have him on this show, and he was just, I mean, the most generous. He might battle you for best tangent. Like DDP will take a story and just go in a million great directions, and then, as he said, always come back to exactly where he started. But I mean, the amount of people he's helped is just mind blowing, and he continues to help too. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love DDP from the small interaction I had with him. Yeah.
Agreed. Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. And agreed. He's helped so many people. I really admire him for that. Look up to him for that. And yeah, he's a special human being, man. He's touched a lot of lives, maybe helped save a lot of lives too.
Mhm.
So yeah, utmost respect to DDP. Yeah, I actually dressed up like DDP a bunch doing Mick Foley's comedy shows with Mick
Ah,
Foley.
I
He
love
has me dressing up like DDP, actually like naked DDP. It's a long story. You'd have to check out Mick Foley's show, but I've had to come out with just leotards on
it.
playing DDP. But it's a hilarious story. I'm sure it's in Mick Foley's book, but you
Um,
know, if you ever get Mick Foley on the show, ask about
uh,
his. Ask about his DDP Stone Cold Steve Austin story from when they were rooming together in WCW.
That's amazing. I will remember that.
Yeah,
Oh,
cool. But anyway, so to answer your question,
the memory.
yes, the memory. So DDP, this is a bad rib I pulled with my friend Dave Curran um, on DDP. He had his number. This is bad because I don't know. Okay, I'll just tell the rib and we'll see.
Okay.
So, my friend Dave Curran had DDP's number. We would play ribs all the time, call guys all the time. So he called DDP, and I was playing Macho Man. And I was like, "Oh yeah, DDP, it's Macho Man." And then DDP, he's like, "Bro, are you serious? You're calling me right now?" And I was, "Yeah, just wanted to call you because I really, I love what you're doing, and I wanted to, give you the rub, give you the heads up. I'm proud of us working together, and man, I just love what you're doing, man. And I just really want to put you over." And he was so touched. He's like, "This isn't Big Show, is it? Is this Show?" I'm like, "No, this is really Randy Savage, man. I mean, like, come on, I'm calling you here." And he's like,
Wow.
"Okay, bro." And he was so touched and taken back by this call. And we got off the phone, and like, I was just like, "Just want to tell you to keep going, man. You're the future of the business, and man, you're gonna be a world champion. And I love you. And I just wanted to give you the heads up that the Macho Man's got your back. And yeah, we love you here." Bro, you'll never know what this did for me. Like, thank you very much
Oh
for the
no.
call, Randy. So we never actually told him, he never got to find out that wasn't Macho Man. And I've heard him to this day talk about a call from Macho Man that means so much to him. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to, I don't know if it's the same call, but I wouldn't know how to break it to him because it would
Just
be.
tell him you heard Big Show called him once.
But it would just shatter him if this is the same call. Oh my gosh.
No. Oh, that's and I could again such a little just look as a fan's opinion on DDP. I could see that really like he seems like a guy that would take something like that
Yeah.
like to heart. Well, if DDP is watching this,
Sorry. Really sorry,
sorry,
man. It just got
sorry.
in.
It's just a rib. Oh my god, that's great. And I'm sure there's so many more. Have you ever heard of the YouTube channel Ownage Pranks?
No.
I recommend you check it out. It was when I was in like middle school, high school, this all we do was watch this guy, but he's got about 8 voices and like he's turned them into characters with their own personalities at this point. And every video is just another prank call. I think he officially stopped. I don't know why. I think he kept trying to ramp up what numbers of people he had. And he was able to get the number somehow, some FBI person, and there was a big thing that got him to stop doing it. But for about 10 years, he did some incredible voices and prank calls.
Oh wow.
Someone with your skill set might find him entertaining.
That's awesome. I'll check that out. Thanks.
Definitely. But so a couple more questions here. You've been so gracious with your time, by the way. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
I'm grateful. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be on your show. You've done so much for the Cafe de Rene. I don't know if you get the credit you deserve, but you really came in and helped a lot. And yeah, you're an important part of the show. And whenever we got everyone except for you there, I really miss you. Whenever I'm there with
Oh,
Paul, James, and Renee, I'm like, "Where's Jonah?" It'd be good to have the whole gang back together again. So.
I know. Soon. Really, drinks with Dupree's around the corner from what I hear. So
I think he did. I saw an episode of him doing it. Like they reached 25 and he pulled out and they were having drinks together. I'm like, "You guys did." I know I can't drink anymore, but it would have been nice just
who
to be.
what was it? Renee and James?
Yeah, Renee and James, and they had Chris Adonis on what's his
Oh,
name?
okay. I don't know if that was, I want to say that wasn't officially, I won't be offended, but I feel like it wasn't officially Drinks with Dupree. I feel
Okay.
like they'd at least have Paul.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Yeah, good point.
Who
True
knows?
enough.
Maybe they did crack one open. But but thank you for your compliment. Really, that means a lot. It's such a fun show to do, and as of growing up a fan too, just so grateful that I'm able to talk, to, and a lot of credit goes back to James too. I mean, I met him just podcasting like this, and he and I had the same number of subscribers, which was zero at first, and then we both just built it, and he was able to hook up with Renee, and they built what that is. So it's just a great community, it really is.
Yeah, agreed with that. Yeah, kudos. Yeah.
But so a lot of people remember the infamous DX or famous now infamous DX impersonating Nation of Domination, which you gave a great explanation on before. But I don't think a lot of people remember the beatdown that Owen gives you after that and locks you in the sharpshooter on Monday Night Raw. Can you take us through that and just what that was like?
Yeah, what an amazing experience. And yeah, I was so grateful for that. Jerry Lawler and Russo, of course, he was writing everything. So you got to give him credit for that. And Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross were so nice, welcoming me, telling me beforehand what we were going to do out there. Jerry Lawler was giving me all these jokes, all these nose jokes to put me over and help me
Right.
while I'm out there. So they did nothing but want to help me. Shawn Michaels was so kind to me, and that was my first time really getting to meet Shawn Michaels. And he was such a fan. He was like, me and my wife crying at home last week, loving it. And he's like, I came up with that nugget line, by the way. But he really put me over, and he was like, he just made me feel so welcome and comfortable that when I got out there, I wasn't as nervous as I could have been. And then Owen was just hilarious. He was like, "You ever take a sharpshooter before?" I'm like, no, and he's like, "Okay, well, lie down." I'm like, here in the backstage where everyone's walking around, and he's like, "Yeah, just lie down. You've done it with your brothers or your boys." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." He's like, "Well, do it like that. Lie down." So I laid down. He's like, "Put your legs up. Put them up, 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 higher, higher, higher." And then Owen walked away and just left me laying there with my legs up. Like, okay,
Oh
it's
my
just
God.
another cheesy rib. But then he came to me and he slipped me a blood capsule. And he's like, "Jason, as soon
Oh,
as I slap you, you bite this. We're not allowed blood on the show right now. So you can't show that you have this in your mouth. And you have to make it like I really cut your lips." And so he's like, "You slip this blood capsule in just before I come out. I'm going to slap you and you bite and spit." So, you could see a little bit of blood on my face when he slapped me, but it was actually a
the blood
blood
capsule.
capsule
Okay.
that we weren't allowed to use. Like, it was like we went against the
So
rule.
so you had to tell everyone in the back, or everyone in the back, I guess, just assumed that the slap was that hard. Wow.
Yeah. And the slap was that hard. I remember telling Owen also, "You should slap me. You should slap me for real." He's like, "Well, I'm going to just try to push your face." And I'm like, "No, Owen, you got to slap me. It's got to look good out there. Like, you got to hit me and I'm going to go flying." And he was looking at me. He's like, "You be careful giving guys that kind of permission." But I was
Oh,
like, "Okay."
there. Yeah.
But
No.
when he did slap me, he actually cracked my jaw. I couldn't eat for a week. Yeah, I actually had to. Mick Foley was actually giving me protein shakes to drink backstage for the next few days. Like, I
That's
was really,
terrible. Oh my God.
yeah. So it was that Owen felt awful about that as well.
Yeah.
Like, it was heat of the moment, and it's live television, and I was a spring chicken, so so it was pretty easy for a powerful guy like him to crack my face. And then to throw me in the ring and put me in the sharpshooter. I mean, what an unbelievable experience to be in that ring and feel the rush of the people from the crowd. It was, you know, a feeling and an experience I'll never be able to duplicate. It was unbelievable. And when he turned me in that sharpshooter, for the first second, he cracked on pressure. So when I scream at first, it's real because I think he wanted to make sure I sell it because I
Yeah.
was so green and I'd never been in a position like that before. So he had to make sure, like, he was such a professional that, you know, he wanted it to look good on TV. So just for a second, he gave me pressure and I felt my whole body split in half. Like,
Ooh.
and I just sold it like an animal as
Yeah,
best I
you
could.
really did.
Yeah, he took, like, the pressure was off, but I was like so afraid of feeling that pain again. So I just sold it as best I could. So I can attest, thanks to him for my sell job, which everybody, all the boys were so gracious to me after. And yeah, having everyone, when, you know, the nation comes out and then DX comes out and they're fighting in the ring all above me, and I've got my eyes closed and all I can feel is the footsteps all around me, hoping no one steps on me. It was just an unbelievable, surreal moment. So,
To have
and
everyone, all those stars around you. Wow. Yeah.
yeah, it was unbelievable. Yeah, what an unbelievable moment. And then they walked me backstage, and as soon as I got backstage, guys were congratulating me again. Yeah, I had gotten over so huge with doing the impression with the parody. So now guys were congratulating me again. Great job. Russo came up. He's like, Jason, you're fucking selling. You're a pro. You're meant for this business, bro. Just left, right, and center. People, you know, congratulating me. Dustin Rhodes came up. You know how hard that is, live television, to go out there and speak the way you did? That was good, kid. Real good. Just everybody, you know, putting me over. And it was just such a great feeling.
Yeah.
And this actually happened. There was the oddities at the time with his name's escaping me, but he's a manager in AEW now.
Let me think. The oddities. Oh, he's a manager in AEW
Yeah, Cyrus.
on screen. Don Callis.
Don Callis, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So he was with the oddities at the time. He was bringing out different oddities, and they were coming out with him. Different people from the Howard Stern show were guests. So that night they had a woman who's like, her claim to fame was how humongous her breasts were. So she was backstage with the oddities, and I remember coming back from getting slapped. Like, I'm still in awe. I haven't even told anyone my jaw's pretty much broken. And everyone's congratulating me. And I remember it was Earl and Dave Hebner. They grabbed me and they're like, Jason, come here, come here. And they're leading me into this and I don't know what's going on. I'm like, where am I going? And they bring me into this dressing room, and all of a sudden it's where this woman is, and she's surrounded by some of the guys. I guess they're going over the segment they're going to do. And this woman, I don't know her name, I'm sorry, but her claim to fame was these humongous silicone breasts that she had. And this had never happened to me before. They're like, they put me down on my knees, the Hebners, and they're like, get him. And this woman comes over, lifts up her top, exposes these humongous breasts, and pounds my face back and forth between these giant breasts. And it was just like, guys, I didn't even have a chance to tell anyone my jaw was
Oh
pretty much
no, with the broken
broken.
jaw.
So now I'm getting like pummeled by these huge breasts, which was like, it was, you know, it was an amazing feeling on one hand. And, you know, on the other hand, it was just like, what the hell's going on? And
What is
my jaw's
happening?
broken. Yeah.
Oh
And
my
this is
God.
hurting. This is killing me. So, so yeah, what a crazy moment. But
I
I
think
gotta
it's even
say
better
that
you
wasn't.
don't. Amazing, you don't even remember her name. Such a
Yeah, it's sad. I've even gone back and tried to look her up to be able to tell the story because I don't want to be rude and I want to give the woman credit, but just for being on the show. And I don't know, it's almost like it was a joke these guys had been getting her to do for other people. But man, I was a 20-year-old kid. I was in my prime, so it
yeah.
was kind of it was an exciting moment at the same time of WTF and ouch. You know.
um so another really cool thing, amazing story. Another really cool thing, you said that you were able to hang out with Nation of Domination before the DX skid and you were learning them. I'm curious when, first of all, any stories when hanging with Nation of Domination, but really The Rock, who is back now as we're heading into WrestleMania now, and he seems to be booked both nights, which is crazy. And the fact he's able to be heel now at this point in his career. So I'm just curious what your experiences were with The Rock and the Nation back then.
Yeah, thanks. So much fun, isn't it? Like, are you liking the heel turn?
I am loving it so much because I didn't really get to live through it. I got like Hollywood Rock kind of like right
Oh
after,
yeah.
right before I started watching, but it wasn't the same as, late 90s, like know your role, shut your mouth of everything I go back and watch. So this is awesome to see this. And it really feels different too, because I mean, he's The Rock. So he's not going to just say the same lines any heel would these days. Like he's bringing it, and I love it.
Yeah, agreed. So funny. I'm just so happy to have him back. I was one of the guys who was waiting for The Rock and Roman for years. So
Yeah,
I'm like, oh man, how could they take this match away from me? I mean, I've been waiting for years for it. Like, but I'm really happy on the flip side to be able to see the heel Rock again. He's so much fun, and I pop for all his stuff. So I'm a big fan of his. But so yeah, I'm enjoying this heel run and those 20-minute promos he's putting on X. I'm watching those like
the whole
cooking.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm cooking dinner and putting it on. I'm laughing away. Like he's still coming up with funny stuff. You walking clown emoji and just you goof. And he's just being so funny. He's
Oh,
really making,
good.
yeah, so a big fan of The Rock. And yeah, he was a gracious person. And one of the things he was known for was it it was it didn't go to his head. He
Mm,
treated everybody the same way, and he was nice to everybody who worked for the company from the top of the card to the bottom. Every production person, The Rock treated everybody, even the fans. He would treat everybody with such kindness, and he was really a good guy to everybody. So I was gracious to get to know him during that, especially during that period where I had to hang out with them and learn their voices. And some of the Nation guys were still ribbing him and still bugging him, teasing him. And so when they were getting me, have you got the Rock voice down yet? And I'm like, I'm trying. And I was like, I didn't know what to say as him. So I'm like, let me tell you something, all you ignorant people. You all you ignorant people are ignorant people. And I didn't know what else to say. And
right.
you were laughing at him and ribbing him like that is all he says is ignorant people. That's all he knows. And he's like, I say stuff better than that. So one day The Rock sat me down and he's like, I've got all these lines that are going to blow this character up. It's going to blow this whole company up. These lines are going to get over so huge. And I got to hear, do you smell what The Rock is cooking
Quiet.
before? Yeah, and so he was like, so when you're doing my voice, learn practice these, because I'm going to start using these catchphrases all the time. People's champion, and yeah, he was a big fan of Muhammad Ali. So he was like, I'm going to take the great one. I'm going to take all these things from Muhammad Ali and start speaking of myself in third person. So calling myself The Rock. When you speak of The Rock says this, The Rock says that. know your role, shut your mouth, the Rock's eyebrow, and he was giving me all of these lines to do his impression. There was one that he never used that I remember. It was I'm gonna. I think I remember. It was like I'm gonna. No, I can't remember. It was something like I'm gonna split you and get to the white meat or something like that. Split your head and get to the white meat, something like that. But it was one of the catchphrases he said he was going to use that he didn't end up using.
Oh,
But something that ends in get to the white meat begins with split. Anyway, so yeah, it was such a
oh my
great
God.
experience. What an
That-
awesome guy.
That's crazy. Like so
Yeah.
crazy that he sat you down and did that.
Yeah. Tell
Yeah.
me his future punchlines. And he was right. They took over the business.
So much him and Stone Cold with what? I mean, that makes up basically all of wrestling fans' vocabulary.
That's right. They even named a show SmackDown. He was using that at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they named a show after it. Layeth the Smacketh Down.
The bracket, yes. Oh, an awesome story. And we said he's killing it now, The Rock, as a heel. Do you have any nation stories to share? One of my favorite wrestlers in particular is Mark Henry, and I've been able to meet him a few times throughout my time as a fan of wrestling, and he's just always been so nice. But I've heard awesome stories. Any Mark Henry tales you can share?
Yeah, he was so nice to me as well. Just a kind, gentle giant.
Yeah,
Um, I remember one time he was sitting with Owen, and oh yeah, it was when we were dressed up as the Nation, and the DX guys were kind of hidden. They hadn't come out and shown their costumes, but I was walking around being a mark, and I went up to Mark Henry, who just he couldn't stop laughing just at the outfit and the nose. And he was sitting with Owen, and Owen was getting so offended by him laughing. So Mark was like, "Man, do you see this guy here? He's you. He looks like you." And then Owen's just like he's ribbing him, and Owen's like, "Oh yeah, the DX was." They ended up coming out that the Nation came out and stopped the parody that night, but
right.
since it was taped, they ended up cutting that scene out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the Nation came down that night and beat the hell out of DX and cleared the ring of us, and I had to hide behind China. But they thought in in cutting the show for the next week, they realized the Nation would have just come out at the beginning of the segment, so there
Yeah,
was no reason why they would have waited out the whole segment and
and
then
watched
come
it.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were like, so they cut the whole beatdown out. So I knew they were coming out, and Owen's like beside Mark Henry. He's like, when I get out there, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you. I'm gonna break that nose. I'm gonna slap you. He's like, if I get my hands on you, I'm gonna kick your ass out there. So you better powder out of that ring and hide behind China as fast as you can. But anyway, that's more of a just Mark Henry ribbing Owen. Uh, there was a signing once. I got to do a signing with Mark Henry and The Rock,
Oh
and
my God.
that was just so great. I was sitting in between them, and just to be in between them, telling jokes the whole time. And yeah, Mark Henry was just when I was there. I guess I had heard he had a rough beginning, but when I was there, he was loved by everybody already, and such a
Oh,
cool guy, and so nice, and just everybody loved him from what I saw. So, and he was very nice to me, just a really nice guy.
that's awesome. Did you ever witness his strength on display?
Not anything that I can remember, no, but
But
big
that's
fan.
so no, that's so cool that you were able to be in the middle of that. Well, last person I want to ask you about, you mentioned him earlier, Mick Foley, awesome friend of yours. It seems, which is so cool. I was first of all curious if you've heard that he's thinking about having one more match on his
Yeah,
60th birthday. What your
yeah.
thoughts on that and who you think his opponent should be?
I think they were talking about Matt Cardona, and
Mm,
I think that would be great because Matt Cardona's done so well. He's like the number one wrestler in the indies, I think, at this time.
Yeah.
And I think they have a past and they have a rep together. So as much as they'd be killing each other, they'll take care of each other. So I trust Matt Cardona as his opponent as well. I'm worried about him as as his, he's a friend of mine. He's a really, really good guy. He's done a lot for me, and I love the guy. I'll get choked up if I talk about it too much. But even just when I was just sick in the hospital there, he got 40,000 people to write comments and
Oh my God.
nice things for me. Just you know amazing, that kind of love from people when you're in that position, and you don't know if you're going to see tomorrow. I was in such a scary position before double bypass heart surgery. There was a woman also, Kimberly Ford, on Twitter. She's a wrestling manager, and I forget what her Twitter handle is. It just escapes me at this moment. But Kimberly Ford's her name. You can find her on Twitter. But she reached out to all these fans on Twitter, and Mick Foley, he reached out to all these fans on Instagram, and they put a shout out for me when I was in the hospital, and I got so much love and support back. And it really is the positivity and love from people. We really can lift each other up. So it did a lot of good for me. Yeah, Mick's done so much for me. He's been such a good person to me, and he's a friend. I can call upon him anytime. We keep in touch, and yeah, I spoke with him recently about the match. Just was like, please be careful, and he's definitely serious about it, and I'm sure he'll take care. But yeah, you know about the fact that he just wants to use wrestling to get in shape. I've done that before as well. I've gone back to wrestling to have a wrestling match just to get myself back in shape again. There's such a positive to when you're going to work a match. You have to be in ring shape for it. So
Yeah.
I can attest to that and understand where he's coming from. And I respect him for wanting to do it at that age. So he's 60 years old now, right? So,
Yeah, I think it was gonna be by his 60. If he could lose 100 pounds by his 60th birthday,
oh
he'll
yeah.
have a match, I think. So
Uh-huh.
good, like best of luck. And that is so awesome that you're able to call him a friend and everything he's done for you. He's another just such a genuine, kind guy, it seems like, as a fan watching him.
Yeah, just such a great person. And I'll always be grateful to him for reaching out to me, really. And I think he always remembered my talent and felt bad for me that I wasn't able to carry it further after I had been on such great highs in
Hmm.
that 15 minutes, so to speak. So he kept his word from 20 years later that
Wow.
he would somehow get me back in the limelight. And he did. He brought me on his comedy tour. And I've worked so many shows with him, and he's taken care of me and treated me like a king on these shows. And, let me own my own craft through his comedy. And yeah. But even more importantly than that, the friend he's become and the person he is, and getting to see the lives he touches and the people he helps all over the world. It's just unbelievable. He's the real life Santa Claus. I love it. He really is. Yeah, I love Mick Foley, and I'm so grateful to be his friend. I'm fortunate to know him. Yeah.
Can we hear a Four Faces of Foley impression? Do you have one of those?
I could try. Four faces. I could do like just him calling me, Jason. We're gonna get you back on the show as soon as we can, and we got a really good comedy act coming up, and we're gonna get you playing Stone Cold. But it's not even doing it justice. I could do it better before, but it's more like as I got to know him, I could do his impression less. I'll try his Mankind though. Mankind, I'm really having a nice day. Or Dude Love. Oh, Daddy, Dude Love, the hippest guy in the land, Dude Love. Anyway,
It's good. Oh my God. Well, that's great. I mean, yeah, he seems like such a nice guy, and thank you for that impression. Jason, as I said, you've been amazing with your time. My final question for you is, what is next for Jason Sensation? We see you on the Cafe weekly, and as I mentioned, Cameo. But what's next for you? What are some next goals that you'd like to accomplish?
I'm not really sure, to tell you the truth. I've kind of, since the heart surgery, I'm just doing my best to get my health back, and I'm kind of at the crossroads of my life, trying to figure out, maybe at my midlife crisis, but it's not a crisis. I'm so grateful to be alive, and I'm thankful to
Yes.
be here. Um, I've been invited to Man Camp with Nikita Koloff and Lex Luger,
Okay.
and it's like a Christian retreat where
I've heard. Yeah.
where you go and you learn to man up with the boys, and you go off for a week into this retreat. And, I'm planning on my friend TC invited me to that, so I'm planning on going to that if I'm able to fly and if I'm able to make it out there. But yeah, on what's on the forefront, I'm not really sure. I just, I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm thankful to be here. And I've been through so much, and I'm happy to, you know, still be here. And, we'll see where the future holds, but doing my best to just stay in the moment and be grateful for the moment. So
Yeah.
thanks
So
very much.
happy that you're still here with us as well. Like that. That was a scary time. I'm glad that you're recovering okay.
Yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Like Bret Hart, he's a friend of mine as well. He said, that's it. After this surgery, I'm calling Jimmy Hart. You're in the Hart Foundation. You're in the Hart. so, so I've got.
My
I'm
God,
grateful
an
to all.
honorary member. That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks to the Hitman. The Hitman, I got to say, Bret Hart's been a really great friend of mine as well. So I'm really, thankful and honored to be his friend all these years. He's helped me a lot as well. Yeah, yeah. I'm so fortunate, grateful to all the doctors and healthcare practitioners that helped save my life, and they're all just angels. And
No,
yeah, my doctor and every therapist, and I'm just grateful to everyone who's helped keep me here. Much love and respect to everybody in the world. I'm so happy to be here. This life is a beautiful gift. Thanks, Jonah, and it's been a pleasure being here on the show. You're such a great guy. I look up to you, and I really respect what you do. And yeah, I'm honored to know you. You're one of the good guys in life, and I'm happy that Renee and James helped me, and Paul. They helped me to get to know you. You're one of the good guys. I'm happy to call you a friend, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Utmost respect to you.
thank you so much for that. That means a lot coming from you. And just really thank you for being you and your positivity that you bring every time. You're just you yourself are a ray of light too. Just like you had mentioned, they said about Owen. Like I really believe that your personality is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Takes one to know one, Jonah. Thank you very much. Means
Thank
a
you.
lot to me. Appreciate it. Touch my heart, brother.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary farce in wrestling interview.